At my son's wedding, his bride slapped me across the face and splashed red wine into my eyes, snarling, "Sign over that absurd estate, you pathetic old fool, or I'll ensure Nicholas never speaks to you again." 200 of Savannah's most prominent citizens stood frozen in stunned silence. I calmly pulled out my phone and dialed a single number. 20 minutes later, two men walked through the entrance, and I watched her smug smile disappear as the intricate web of lies she had spun shattered in front of everyone. Before we dive into how I discovered my daughter-in-law's staggering secret, please subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments what time and where are you listening to this story. Let me take you back to where this nightmare started. 3 months earlier, on a cold January evening in Savannah, Georgia, the front door slammed so violently that my bourbon glass nearly slipped from my hand. Nicholas burst in, his face glowing with excitement. "Dad, you won't believe what happened." I set down my drink. "Slow down, son. What's got you so fired up?" Nicholas pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, hands shaking. "I did it. Dad. I proposed." My stomach dropped as he opened it, revealing a stunning 3-carat diamond set in white gold. I knew his mid-level attorney's salary. This ring represented half a year's earnings. She said, "Yes, we're engaged." 4 months. He had known Nicole Harper only 4 months. Yet he spoke of marriage like a casual weekend plan. "That's wonderful news," I said, keeping my voice steady. My mind raced. I remembered how she had inspected my home like a property appraiser, asked pointed questions about my pension fund, and whispered on her phone during family meals. "Look at this ring," he said, holding it toward me. 3 carats, white gold, every dime of my savings. But she deserves the very best. Every dime. He had drained his account for a woman he had met 90 days ago. It's stunning. "When did you propose at the old pink house on Reynolds Square tonight?" Got down on one knee. She cried. "Dad, tears of joy, tears of financial triumph. More likely." "Nicholas, can we sit? This is life-changing news." "I know." "Right." He dropped into his chair. "Nicole Thompson has a nice ring to it. Doesn't it, my gut? Honed by decades in courtrooms. Screamed warnings. You've known each other 4 months. Are you sure you know her well enough for marriage?" "What do you mean marriage is serious?" "Compatibility, shared values, long-term goals, children, finances, where to live. We've discussed all that. We want the same things: family, happiness, a good life, and security." Nicholas's jaw tightened. "Why security?" "Because your fiancé evaluated my house before asking about my health. Financial compatibility matters. You're a lawyer from an established family. She's a server. Different backgrounds, different expectations. So what are you saying?" "She's beneath me. You need to ensure you're on the same page." "We are. She loves me and I love her. That's what matters." I couldn't let it go. "She seems presumptuous. Have you noticed how she speaks to me when she thinks you're not listening? Don't talk about her like that. She looks at everything here as if she's already moved in, calculating its value." "Stop it." Nicholas's face flushed. "I can spot a gold digger. I'm a grown man. Stop interfering in my life. Nicholas, please." "No." He backed toward the door. "I'm done listening to your judgments. You're jealous. I found someone who makes me happy. That's not true. Since Mom died, you've been alone. And you can't stand me having what you lost." Nicholas froze, stunned by his own words. "Nicholas, wait." But he yanked the door open. "Nicole and I are getting married, whether you approve or not." The chandelier trembled as the door slammed. I stood frozen, listening to his car roar into the Savannah night. The mansion fell silent. I stared at my trembling hands. I stood staring at the front door long after Nicholas's taillights vanished into the Savannah night. The silence pressed around me, broken only by the grandfather clock that had marked time for 5 generations of Thompson men. Pouring another bourbon, I sank into my leather armchair. Perhaps I had gone too far. Nicholas was 29, successful, educated. Did I have any right to question his choices? But Nicole's calculating eyes haunted me. The way she surveyed my home like an appraiser, steering conversations toward my retirement plans and family trusts. Her interest hid behind practiced sweetness. I pulled out the photo album. Laura's smile greeted me, her arm around Nicholas at his law school graduation. 6 years gone, yet I still set 2 places at dinner. What would you do? Laura, I whispered. She would have handled it differently, inviting Nicole to tea, drawing her out with gentle questions, forming judgment without alienating our son. Turning the page, I saw my 26-year-old self beside Victoria at our engagement party. I had believed her smile was love, her interest in my family's firm sincere. That marriage lasted 20 months, just long enough for her to realize associates don't make partner overnight, long enough to teach me marriage can be a transaction. Now Nicholas was on the same path. Nicole had the same polished charm Victoria wielded, but I glimpsed the cold calculation when she thought no one watched. When she examined my grandmother's antique desk or heard about our Tybee Island beach house. Was grief making me paranoid? My instincts, sharpened by 35 years on the bench, told me otherwise. This wasn't jealousy. It was protection. Nicholas saw devotion. Nicole saw dollar signs. I brewed tea, Laura's old ritual, letting the familiar motions clear my head. By the time I drained the cup, I decided tomorrow I would call Nicholas, apologize for turning his engagement into an argument. I would invite them to dinner, offer a chance to observe Nicole without confrontation. If I was wrong, I would welcome her into the family. If I was right, I would protect Nicholas from the greatest mistake of his life. At dawn, I rehearsed my apology. At 8, I picked up the phone. Nicholas, it's Dad. I was hoping we could talk. Silence stretched before his weary reply. I don't have time for another lecture. Son, I was out of line last night. You came with joyful news, and I turned it into a fight. I'm sorry. The silence shifted, less hostile, more surprised. I love you. Nicholas, your happiness matters more than anything. If Nicole makes you happy, I want to support that. In fact, would you both come for dinner Friday? I'd like to start fresh. I heard muffled voices. Then Nicholas's cautious reply. She says yes. Friday at 6. Perfect. I'll make the roast beef you always loved. He laughed for the first time in days. Haven't had that in months. Nicole's excited to try it. After we hung up, relief washed over me. Phase 1 was complete. The bridge repaired. The dinner secured. Now came the real challenge, watching Nicole closely enough to confirm my suspicions without letting her see. That's exactly what I did. Friday brought crisp January air as I prepared for the most important dinner of my life. Laura's china gleamed beneath the chandelier. Fresh magnolias brightened her vase. At 6 sharp, Nicholas's car arrived. He helped Nicole from the passenger seat, her touch on his arm deliberate, like a rehearsed gesture. Dad, something smells incredible. Nicholas hugged me warmly. Just your favorite roast beef, I said. Nicole's voice carried across the entryway. What a magnificent estate. So much history. Nicholas told me this has been in your family for generations. But her eyes weren't admiring, only assessing. Paintings, furniture, rugs, all measured with calculating precision. Over dinner, Nicholas announced. We've set the wedding date. May 15th, 12 weeks. So soon, I asked, startled. When you know, Nicole said, flashing her ring. Why wait? She studied the china. Wedgwood. Worth a fortune. I imagine you have such beautiful things here. I served the meal. Nicholas devoured it happily. Nicole picked daintily. Quite good, she said, though a bit overdone. Restaurants are more consistent. Laura's perfected recipe dismissed in a single breath. I forced a smile. Perhaps I overcooked it. Her laugh chimed. Then there will be a next time. How sweet. Though honestly, doesn't it seem wasteful for one person to live in all this space? Nicholas and I think young families need homes like this, while older folks are happier downsizing. Less upkeep, fewer stairs. Nicholas bristled. Nicole, Dad loves this house. Of course. But practically, wouldn't a retirement community be better? Then this place could be filled with children and holiday gatherings again. The audacity stunned me. She was practically asking me to hand her my ancestral home. The house suits me perfectly, I said. Her smile held, though her eyes flashed cold. People's needs change with age. She drifted to family photographs. That's your late wife. Such a shame she won't see the wedding. Terrible timing. Silence fell. Nicholas dropped his fork. Nicole, that's inappropriate, he said quietly. What I only mean, it's sad. If she'd held on longer, she'd have met me. Then surveying the dining room, she added, this house must feel like a mausoleum, all those memories lingering. She dismissed the vegetables as overcooked. Dessert store-bought. Coffee weak. Even the music funeral-like. Each remark landed like a small blade. By 8:30, I was drained. But then her mask cracked. In the living room, her phone buzzed. She glanced, and a genuine smile lit her face, warmer than anything she had shown Nicholas. Just work, she murmured, typing quickly. It buzzed again, another radiant grin, then a third. Everything all right, Nicholas asked. Perfect. My manager confirming next week's schedule, but her sparkle betrayed her. The phone rang. She declined quickly, flushing. Sorry, just work coverage. But I had seen the caller ID Nathan. Not how one saves a manager. That night in my study, I stared at the ceiling. 35 years on the bench had sharpened my instincts. That was no work smile. That was the look of a woman in love, only not with my son. And she wanted my house, too. After dinner, I suggested we move to the living room for coffee. The evening had been strained, but I was determined to give Nicole another chance. We settled into the comfortable seating area where Laura and I had spent countless evenings. Nicholas chose his usual spot on the sofa, while Nicole perched on the wingback chair, ready to leave at any moment. I was pouring coffee when Nicole's phone began buzzing relentlessly. She glanced at the screen, and I watched her face transform completely. Gone was the calculated politeness, replaced by something genuine and radiant that I had never seen her direct toward Nicholas. Her fingers flew across the screen as she typed, and for those seconds, she looked like a different woman. Happy, genuinely happy. Everything all right? I asked. Oh, just work texting about tomorrow's shift, she replied, but her voice carried warmth and affection, not irritation from a work interruption. The phone buzzed again immediately. Another glance, another radiant smile, another quick response. Then a third time, her entire face lighting up with joy. Busy night at the restaurant, Nicholas asked, oblivious to the transformation. You know how it is. Saturday nights are crazy. My manager wants to ensure we're fully staffed. But I had spent 35 years reading people in courtrooms. That smile, that spark, that wasn't professional communication. That was a woman receiving messages from someone she cared about deeply. The phone rang, cutting through the evening like an alarm. Nicole's face went from radiant to panicked instantly. She fumbled for the device, and I caught a glimpse of the caller ID before she declined Nathan with a heart emoji. "Sorry about that," she said, cheeks flushed with fear. "Just someone from work about coverage issues. I'll deal with it later." Her hand shook as she placed the phone face down, glancing at it nervously. "Perhaps you should take it," I suggested mildly. "If it's work-related, it might be important." "No, it's fine," she said quickly. "Nothing that can't wait." Nicholas seemed satisfied, but I studied Nicole's face more carefully. The genuine happiness while reading those messages was completely at odds with the woman who had criticized my home and suggested I move to a retirement facility. 20 minutes later, she excused herself to the powder room, grabbing her phone. Once the door closed, I could hear soft conversation through the thin walls. I moved closer to the hallway, pretending to adjust one of Laura's paintings, and caught fragments of a very different Nicole. A pause, then a soft laugh, holding more genuine affection than anything she had shown my son all evening. My blood ran cold. She was talking about me, about my home, about Nicholas, with someone she clearly cared for more than my son. When she returned 5 minutes later, her mask was back in place, but I had seen behind it now. The rest of the evening passed in polite conversation, but my mind raced. As I walked them to the door and watched Nicholas help her into the car, I was already planning my next move. 35 years on the bench had taught me that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them. Nicole Harper had just shown me everything I needed to know. The investigation would begin Monday morning. Monday morning arrived with a sense of urgency. The image of Nicole, her mocking smile at the wedding, lingered in my mind. I couldn't let my son fall into the trap of a woman so calculating, determined to uncover the truth. I decided to contact an old acquaintance, Mark Ellis, a highly regarded private investigator in Savannah. We had worked together on several high-profile cases, and I knew he could help me navigate this delicate situation. I dialed Mark's number, my heart racing. "Mark, I need to meet with you urgently. There's a serious issue involving my son and his fiancée." "Sure thing. Graham, let's meet at that cafe we like," he replied. We arranged to meet that afternoon. When I arrived at the cafe, Mark was already seated with a steaming cup of coffee. "So, what's going on?" Mark asked, his expression serious. "I have suspicions about Nicole," I began. "Her behavior has raised alarms, and I've seen messages on her phone that suggest she's not who she claims to be." I recounted the tense dinner, the suspicious smiles, the phone call from Nathan. Mark listened intently, his brow furrowing with each revelation. "This sounds complicated," he said. "We need to dig deeper. I'll start an investigation right away." In the following days, Mark worked diligently gathering information on Nicole. Meanwhile, I couldn't shake the worry that Nicholas remained blissfully unaware of what was happening. Each time I saw his smiling face, my anxiety grew. Mark made significant progress by the end of the week. "Nicole isn't just a server," he said. "She has a rather shady past. There are signs that she's manipulated other men before." I felt a storm brewing. We need concrete evidence before Nicholas finds out. He won't believe us unless we have proof. The wedding was just days away, and I knew I had little time to protect my son from what could be a disastrous marriage. By the second week of February, Mark had made significant progress in his investigation. Each day brought new revelations about Nicole, and my anxiety about Nicholas's upcoming wedding only intensified. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was racing against time. On a Tuesday afternoon, I met Mark at his office to discuss his findings. The walls were lined with case files and photos, a testament to his years of experience. As I took a seat, I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. Graham Thompson, I've uncovered some troubling information, Mark began, his tone serious. Nicole has a history of manipulating men for their money. She's not just a server. She's been involved in several relationships that raised red flags. I leaned forward, my heart racing. What do you mean? Mark pulled out a folder filled with photographs and documents. I did a background check and found that Nicole, or rather Sarah Jenkins, has been using different identities. She's had at least 3 significant relationships in the last 2 years, all with financially stable men. My stomach sank as he laid out the evidence. Pictures of Nicole with various men, each one showcasing her charm and allure. There was Nathan, a real estate developer, and Connor, a bartender at a trendy rooftop bar. Both men appeared genuinely devoted to her, and it was evident from the photographs that she had manipulated their emotions. Each of these men believed they were exclusive with her. Mark continued, but she was playing them against each other, likely for financial gain. I felt a wave of anger wash over me. How could she do this? How could she treat people like that? People like Nicole often see relationships as transactions, Mark replied. They thrive on attention, affection, and the benefits that come with it. She's also been known to ghost her partners, suddenly leaving them confused and heartbroken. As I sat there absorbing the information, my mind raced. How could I protect Nicholas from this woman he was so deeply in love, completely unaware of the reality lurking beneath Nicole's perfect exterior? Mark had already compiled a timeline of Nicole's relationships, showing how she moved seamlessly from one man to another while maintaining an appearance of innocence. She had been spotted with Nathan on Mondays and Wednesdays, while Connor took her out on Tuesdays and Fridays. Thursdays and Sundays were reserved for her independent life so she could keep Nicholas in the dark. Graham Thompson. I suggest we gather more concrete evidence, Mark proposed. If we can get a hold of her phone records or any messages that confirm these relationships, we can present it to Nicholas. That makes sense, I replied. But how do we do that without tipping her off? We'll need to be discreet, Mark said. I can set up surveillance, follow her to see who she meets, and document everything. This way, we'll have the proof we need without raising any alarms. As we discussed the plan, I felt a renewed sense of determination. I had to save Nicholas from the impending disaster of marrying a woman who viewed love as a transaction. The days that followed were filled with tension. Mark worked tirelessly gathering evidence while I tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy in my interactions with Nicholas. I saw how excited he was about the wedding, and each smile on his face felt like a knife twisting in my heart. Finally, one evening, Mark called me with urgent news. I have something important to show you. Meet me at Grayson's pub tomorrow night at 8. Curiosity and dread mixed as I agreed. The pub was where Nicole worked, and I knew this meeting would be pivotal. The next night, I arrived at Grayson's pub, my heart pounding. The atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and music. But I was there for a different reason. I spotted Mark seated at a corner table, his expression serious. "What's going on?" I asked as I joined him. Mark leaned in, pulling out a series of photographs. I caught her with Nathan tonight. They were all over each other, and I managed to snap these. The images showed Nicole and Nathan, their chemistry undeniable. My heart sank further as Mark continued. She's been playing you and Nicholas like a fiddle. We need to confront her before this wedding goes any further. With the evidence in hand, I felt a mix of anger and resolve. I couldn't let my son marry a woman like this. The confrontation would have to happen soon, and it would have to be definitive. On May 12th, just 3 days before Nicholas's wedding, I sat in my study staring at the evidence Mark had compiled. The photographs, the timeline, the documented lies. Everything pointed to one inescapable conclusion. Nicole Harper was systematically deceiving 3 men simultaneously, and my son was about to marry her. But I knew that simply presenting evidence to Nicholas wouldn't be enough. He was too deeply in love, too invested in his fantasy of the perfect bride. I needed something more dramatic, more undeniable. I needed Nathan and Connor to see the truth for themselves. Mark had provided me with their contact information and work addresses. Nathan Brooks owned a successful real estate firm downtown. Connor Lewis tended bar at the Rooftop, an upscale establishment on Bay Street. Both men believed they were in exclusive relationships with the woman they knew as Nicole. That morning, I made my first approach. Nathan's real estate office was bustling with activity, but I managed to get a private meeting by introducing myself as a retired judge with urgent legal concerns. Mr. Brooks, I need to discuss something sensitive regarding a woman named Nicole Harper. I began watching his face carefully. His expression immediately brightened. Nicole, she's wonderful. We've been together for 9 months now. Are you a friend of hers? My heart sank at his genuine affection. I'm afraid I have some difficult news. Nicole is engaged to marry my son this Saturday. The color drained from Nathan's face. That's impossible. She would have told me. We're planning a future together. I showed him the wedding invitation, the engagement photos Nicholas had shared on social media. Nathan stared at the images, his hands trembling slightly. There's more, I continued gently. She's also involved with another man named Connor Lewis. I believe all 3 of you are being manipulated. Nathan's shock turned to anger, then to a grim determination I recognized from my years on the bench. What do you want me to do that evening? I met Connor at the Rooftop after his shift ended. The conversation followed a similar pattern. Initial disbelief, then crushing realization. Finally, a burning need for justice. She told me she loved me, Connor said, his voice hollow. Said we were going to move in together after she sorted out some family issues. The family issue is my son, I replied, and the wedding is in 3 days. By 10 that night, the 3 of us sat in a quiet corner, both unlikely allies united by our shared victimization. Nathan, successful and confident, had been played for his money. Connor, young and romantic, had been manipulated for his devotion. And Nicholas, my brilliant son, was being used for his family's social standing and wealth. She's been scheduling us like appointments, Nathan said bitterly. Mondays and Wednesdays with me, Tuesdays and Fridays with Connor, Thursdays and Sundays with your son. Saturdays she kept free. Connor added. She said she needed time to herself. Now I know she was probably planning her next move. I pulled out my phone. Gentlemen, I have a proposal. The wedding reception is this Saturday at 5 p.m. I believe Nicole will make her final play then. She's already hinted about wanting our family home. When she does, I'll call both of you. Your arrival will expose everything in front of 200 witnesses. Nathan nodded grimly. She won't be able to explain away 3 men who all thought they were her only love. It'll destroy her completely. Connor agreed. But what about your son? This will devastate him. I thought of Nicholas's trusting smile, his excitement about starting married life. Better devastated now than destroyed slowly over years of marriage to a sociopath. He deserves the truth even if it hurts. We exchanged phone numbers and made our plans. Nathan would come from the east entrance, Connor from the west. They would arrive separately. but within minutes of each other, creating maximum impact. Remember, I told them as we prepared to leave, act surprised when you see each other. Let the truth reveal itself naturally. Don't let her manipulate the situation. As I drove home through the quiet Savannah streets, I felt a mixture of dread and determination. In 3 days, I would either save my son from the biggest mistake of his life or destroy his happiness forever. But I knew I had no choice. The truth had to come out, no matter how painful. The pieces were in place. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was wait for Nicole to spring it herself. The wedding ceremony had concluded flawlessly under the May afternoon sun. Nicholas and Nicole stood surrounded by congratulations from 200 Savannah elite. Her white dress brilliant against the green backdrop of the historic Forsyth Park. I sat in the father of the groom section, watching the celebration unfold with a heavy heart. As guests moved from the ceremony area to the reception pavilion, their laughter echoed through the ancient oak trees. Nicole accepted praise with growing confidence, her hand possessively gripping Nicholas's arm as if claiming territory she had already won. "Such a beautiful bride," commented Nicholas's Aunt Margaret. "You must be so happy to welcome her into the family." "Indeed," I replied, watching Nicole's eyes catalog the expensive jewelry worn by her relatives, already calculating their worth. As the reception settled into its rhythm, Nicole's behavior shifted noticeably. The demure facade she had maintained during previous encounters dissolved into something more aggressive, more entitled. She moved through the crowd like a queen surveying her new kingdom. 20 minutes into the reception, she approached me directly. The crowd had thinned around the gift table, providing the privacy she needed for her real agenda. "Judge Thompson, we need to discuss something important," she said, her voice holding none of the sweetness she had used during our dinner. "Nicholas and I have been talking about our future living arrangements." I set down my wine glass, meeting her gaze steadily. "Oh, your house is perfect for newlyweds," she continued, stepping closer. "And frankly, you don't need all that space anymore. We'd like you to sign it over to us." The audacity took my breath away, even though I had expected something like this. "I'm sorry, but that's my home. I won't be giving it up." Her face flushed with irritation. "Won't be giving it up." Her voice rose slightly. "You're old and alone. Judge Thompson, what do you possibly need all that space for? It's selfish to hoard resources when young families need them." My answer is no. "Nicole." She stepped even closer, her mask slipping completely. "That house has been sitting there like a museum for years. Nicholas deserves his inheritance now. Not after you're dead and buried." "Sign the papers," I said. "No. Maybe this will change your mind." The slap exploded across my cheek like a gunshot, sharp and shocking. At the very same moment, Nicole flung the wine glass she had been holding, its contents splashing full across my face and soaking the front of my jacket. The sting of her hand burned against my skin, while the cold liquid dripped down my collar. Gasps rippled through the reception as the sound of the blow and the spray of wine drew every eye toward us. Nicholas materialized beside us within seconds, his face flushed with confusion and embarrassment. "What's happening here?" "Nicole, why did you hit my father? He's being completely unreasonable about the house situation," she snapped, apparently unaware that assaulting an elderly man at her own wedding reception might not reflect well on her character. I reached calmly into my jacket and withdrew my phone, maintaining steady eye contact with Nicole, while Nicholas stared between us in bewilderment. "I think it's time everyone learned the truth about who you really are," I said quietly, my thumb moving across the phone screen. "What are you doing?" Nicole's voice carried the first note of genuine concern I had ever heard from her. Making a couple of calls, I replied, sending the first prepared message to Nathan. You'll see. The second message went to Connor, both texts identical in urgency, both designed to bring Nicole's secret life crashing into her public one. They should be here in about 20 minutes, I said, pocketing the phone with a satisfied smile. Nicholas looked between us, completely lost. Dad, what's going on? Who's coming? But I simply smiled and waited. The trap had been set. And soon everyone would see Nicole Harper for exactly what she was. The sound of gravel crunching under tires announced the first arrival. A black SUV pulled into the park's small parking area, its driver clearly in a state of panic. Behind it, a red sedan appeared, disgorging its equally urgent passenger. Nathan and Connor had arrived, and my daughter-in-law's world was about to collapse. Nathan jumped from his SUV and rushed toward the pavilion, panic written across his face. Nicole, I got your emergency message. Are you hurt? Why are you wearing a wedding dress? Connor emerged from his sedan with equal urgency, his eyes scanning the crowd before landing on Nicole in her bridal gown. What's going on? I thought you needed help. The reception fell silent. Every guest watched as two strange men interrupted the celebration, both obviously familiar with the bride. Nicole stood frozen, her face cycling through shock, panic, and desperate calculation. Her confident mask crumbled completely. This isn't... You weren't supposed to, she stammered. Composure shattered. Nicholas looked between them in bewilderment. How do these men know my wife? Nathan and Connor exchanged a meaningful glance, the look of two men who had planned this moment carefully. Connor stepped forward first. Your wife Connor's voice carried perfectly orchestrated confusion. Nicole, what is he talking about? We've been together for months. Wait a minute, Nathan said, his tone building with calculated anger. Are you telling me she's been lying to both of us? I stepped forward, withdrawing my evidence folder. Gentlemen, I'm Graham Thompson, father of the groom. I can answer that question because I've spent the last 2 months documenting this woman's lies to all three of you. 3 of us, Connor asked, though we all knew he already understood. I opened the folder, displaying photographs chronologically. April 10th. Nicole with Nathan outside Grayson's pub. The intimate embrace was crystal clear. April 17th. Nicole with Connor entering his apartment. April 24th. Nicole and Nathan at Husk Restaurant. May 1st. Nicole and Connor shopping for engagement rings. Engagement rings, Nicholas whispered. 30 days of surveillance. 52 photographs documenting systematic deception. She's been conducting 3 simultaneous relationships while telling each of you that you were the only one. Nathan's voice rose with righteous fury. She told me I was the only man in her life. She said the same thing to me, Connor added, his performance flawless. The revelation hit Nicole like a physical blow. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed unconscious, unable to process how her carefully separated worlds had collided so catastrophically. Wedding guests pressed closer, the celebration dissolving into chaos. Nicholas knelt beside the scattered photographs, studying each image as his reality crumbled. These are real, he whispered. All of this is real. I'm sorry, son. I wanted to be wrong about her. Nathan and Connor maintained their act of mutual betrayal and shared victimization, though I could see the grim satisfaction in their eyes. Justice was finally being served. I can't believe she played us all, Nathan said, his voice carrying genuine anger beneath the performance. A year of lies, Connor replied bitterly. They looked down at Nicole with disgust, then left without another word. Their mission accomplished. Nicholas continued studying the photographs, his wedding dreams destroyed by undeniable evidence. When Nicole regained consciousness, the reception area was nearly empty. Most guests had departed after witnessing the spectacular collapse. "Nicholas, where is everyone?" Her voice carried desperate hope. "They left," Nicholas said simply. "Everyone left." She struggled to her feet. "Nicholas, listen to me. This isn't what it looks like. I can explain everything. Explain what exactly how you were engaged to me while sleeping with 2 other men. How you lied to all 3 of us for months. Those relationships didn't mean anything. You're the one I chose to marry." Nicholas stepped backward. "Love? You don't even understand what that word means." She stared at him. Finally understanding her deception had completely collapsed. Without another word, she gathered her skirts and walked toward the parking area, heels clicking mechanically. When her car disappeared, Nicholas and I stood alone among abandoned decorations. White ribbons fluttered from empty chairs, the untouched cake a monument to shattered dreams. "Dad, I owe you an enormous apology." Nicholas's voice shook. "You were right about her from the beginning. I'm sorry it happened this way. Son, I genuinely wanted to be wrong. Thank you for saving me from the biggest mistake of my life." That's what fathers do. Protect their children even when it's painful. Together, we walked away from the destroyed reception, father and son united by truth. Nicholas would recover from this betrayal. He was young, intelligent, and now wiser about the difference between genuine love and skilled manipulation. Someday, he would find someone worthy of his devotion, and I would be there to welcome her properly into our family. As I reflect on this painful journey, I've learned that sometimes protecting the ones we love requires making the hardest decisions of our lives. Betrayal stories like ours remind us that trust, once broken, leaves scars that never fully heal. But God gave us the wisdom to recognize deception even when it wears the mask of love. Grandpa's stories often carry the deepest truths about life, and mine is no different. I've seen how manipulation can destroy families, how lies can poison the purest intentions. Nicholas learned that real love doesn't demand your inheritance or calculate your worth in dollars. God blessed him with the strength to walk away from a toxic relationship before it consumed his future. The most difficult betrayal stories are the ones closest to home, but they teach us invaluable lessons. Grandpa stories, like mine, show that experience isn't just about age. It's about recognizing patterns, trusting instincts, and having the courage to act when everything is at stake. God works through those who refuse to stay silent when evil masquerades as virtue. Today, Nicholas is happily married to a wonderful woman who loves him for who he is, not what he owns. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no to what seems right and fighting for what is true. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the importance of family wisdom, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about love, family, and the courage to do what's right. Your support helps us bring these meaningful tales to families everywhere.